De har satt sig lite respekt där in hos det japanska försvaret. Halmstad på Stina Blackstenius.
Hi, I wanted to do an update on the memory police. I've been listening to it for 2 days now, while before and while resting and before sleep. And so I've read 35%, and it's quite long for my opinion, on 2.5 hours. But I'm really loving it. It has a lot of interesting discussions around memory. And yeah, so I think it will get rather a high grade once I'm done with it. But I wanted to talk a little about my illness. I watched Siska's video a little while ago, her last one, and it made me think a bit. I mean, being disabled and chronically ill is a weird life. I mean, for me, some of the things I have been with me my whole life. EDS and ADD. Like with the EDS, I've always had issues with like my ankles, and when I got in my teens, my knees. But I say that my fibromyalgia started, you can see a very clear start for it, and it was 3 years ago. It was during that first pandemic summer. I was on a cafe, the outside bit, with a few of my writing friends. We were writing and reading, and I was just holding my book up, and it just hurt my hand so much, and I had to rest it on the table and like put it down. And so that was just the starting. And then my feet and my knees, and so it was very clearly located in like joints, and because of reasons I will probably get into in another video maybe, I already had some suspicions of EDS, so I brought it up with this doctor. And thinking back on that meeting, it's like, it's almost funny, but I was so like defeated at the time, because he was like, well, EDS is a bad diagnosis, just like fibromyalgia, because there's nothing to do with it. No doctor wants to handle it. That was it. That was what he told me. And then I found out I also had fibromyalgia. So yeah. And what was I saying? And I was studying at the time, doing a master's in journalism. I was during that spring semester we were doing our thesis, and I got it extended because I also had depression. So I was going to finish it that summer, which obviously didn't happen. And God, my brain fog today. And I guess the thing was, I had at the time been going to and from school, and because of my ADD, I always had a bit of fatigue in my life. I found that sensory things always took a lot of energy from me. Commuting, large like loud crowds, and while my school was very small, it was only doing like a bachelor's and master's for journalism. It was such a small cramped area. It was always loud when it was lunchtime. I think that when it was pandemic and when I was staying at home, like 90-95% of my time, I felt some relief energy-wise. And so I don't know for a bit of that if I had more fatigue or not. But after a while I could notice it. But the thing was, I moved to this flat a year and a half ago, and I did it carefully. I was packing like for 2 weeks, I think, doing a little bit at a time, not to overexert myself. But like, I just crashed after I moved here, and I just got more and more ill. And so that was in December, and I remember that spring I was trying to do this like easier yoga pilates exercise thing because I missed exercising so much. And that 2 weeks after that I couldn't do anything, literally. I was on my sofa listening to audiobooks, taking like out foods from my freezer and microwaving it. So yeah, that is sort of how it progressed, I guess. And then last fall, well, the thing is, I have this friend now, my closest friend. We've been friends since we were 15. She has ME/CFS, and so for reasons I didn't suspect, fibro. And while I was so focused on my joints, I didn't really realize the muscle pain, which sounds so silly. Like, how can you not realize it? I was just finding that it was weird, like, why does every contact of the body, like when I was doing yoga, hurt every bone in my body that it touched? Like, why did my ribs and my hip bones feel so sensitive? And I was like Googling it. Can you get bruised ribs from doing yoga? But anyhow, I could see that there were a lot of similarities between my friends and how I were feeling. And so I was asking for a referral. And we basically have this one clinic in Stockholm who does diagnoses of ME. My doctor was like, oh, it's so difficult, they need so many tests. And so I think she was like a bit sick of me this spring when she ironically again sent me to the same clinic but for my pain. And yeah, it's so weird the life you have when you're like this. And weird and frustrating, like I want to do the dishes but I can't. I want to vacuum but I can't. I want to shower more often and feel clean but I can't. Because like washing my hair is like the most exhausting thing. And the same with like the other things that I mentioned. And I was, before this pain program, like I didn't realize it until I started it, but like my whole life was so focused around work. Not in a I need to get this job done, because the thing is I work as a carer and I really enjoy working with her. It's only with this one person. We get along really well, it's not too straining, I get to rest a lot, but I was just like, okay, focusing so much on when can I rest next time, how many hours will I be able to sleep before until the next shift, and like when can I sit down. When I came home it was like, okay, I need to rest so I can work tomorrow, and it was all like focused on rest, and I thought I was in that pacing, but it's not pacing because I was so focused on like work and like my energy levels. And yeah. But I've also been thinking the last few days, last week. So when I had that hypomanic episode, I was so afraid that I was going to have a like giant crash after it, because I've been home this whole time since March. I haven't been working at all. I've been taking everything so slowly, so like really truly focused on pacing and finding my pace, what I can do for that day, what is enough and what is what I want to do also. But and so I think the last day of that episode I was like googling mania and bipolar disorder together with with like fibromyalgia and CFL, ME, and I couldn't really find anything. I found some suggestions that bipolar disorder is more common in diagnoses like that, which is interesting, but not unsurprising considering the stress of such a disorder, especially if it's type 1, which you have full-blown mania. But I also found this article when I say article, I mean a scientific article. It wasn't it was only like telling the story of this person that had, now I'm going from memory, had a manic episode, and that her, okay, my brain is not braining. Mania and recovery from chronic fatigue syndrome in Journal of Royal Society of Medicine. 14-year-old girl admitted with mania. 3 years earlier, she had suffered from recurrent episodes of fatigue, and like all these symptoms. Reviews of the case confirms that the patients met the criteria for CFS. This is an old article from 91 though. Okay, so in hospital she was treated for the mania. She was overactive, slept a little, denied fatigue, the obvious stuff. And that sounds quite meek for true mania. 4 weeks later, when you 4 weeks later, she could still perform activities not attempted for more than a year. Those include long walks, cycling, badminton, and none of which now caused her pain or undue fatigue. She remained well over the following month. Medication was discontinued. She remained home. So what I realized, it is now over a month ago since my episode, and I had a lot of like energy afterwards, and only one crash, and that was only a crash in regards to pain, like full body pain, but not fatigue. And so I had not had that intensity of fatigue until like yesterday, and I just find it really interesting how something which I assumed would like cause me so much anguish would make me feel better for a while. Yeah, so I've been able to take not long walks, but like double the amount that I used to before. I've been sleeping like 8-9 hours instead of 10-12. I've been taking no naps during the day, which I always did before, like 1 to 3 hours every day. And my brain fog has been relatively good. I've been writing a lot, as I mentioned before, I think in a video. And while I had that pain crash, I could do a lot of things, and yeah, so I mean, this bit of fatigue would just now come back. It's only 2 days in, so we'll see, but I guess I'm just fascinated by how the body works. Yeah. I found another site which had a lot to do with bringing forth information to patients and to medicine about ME and fibro, and it had again 2 reports of patients, one related to mania and a woman who was put under anesthesia and woke up with mania, which I can't remember, but saying maybe that it was sometimes caused by the cocktail of anesthesia medicines. The same thing with her. I think it also said that she did have the relapse afterwards, and they were taking reports of people who got better from certain things, and yeah, it's just interesting to hear, I think. And yeah, but I will still continue to take care of myself and take it slowly and take it easily myself. Just some thoughts there. Hi, it's quite late. It's past 12 and I can't sleep. And I have a headache, so I will take some medication for that. Medication that actually doesn't go that well with my bipolar medication, but especially when they come on when I'm going to sleep, yeah, they are worth it. And it's not like they're bothering the medication so much, it's just that they are lowering the levels of valproate in the bloodstream. And this is like my new habit, watching some Bake Off on the couch before going to sleep. It was a recommendation from the psychologist on the pain program for my sleep issues. I've had difficulty sleeping and insomnia since I was 10, 12. And sometimes I watch something and sometimes I start listening to my audiobook before I go to the bed and start listening and continue listening. And I do a grounding exercise or self-regulating exercise to calm down my nervous system before hopefully going to sleep as well. I have developed so many different habits to help my body fall asleep. And this is my weighted blanket, 6 kilos. I used to have a weighted comforter or whatever they're called, which was 10 kilos, which was when I had the most difficulty sleeping and had really heavy sleeping medications and everything. And once that became better, I didn't need such a heavy one. but I love this one because it's really soft. So yeah, it will probably take another couple of hours before I go to sleep because it's also caffeine in that one. And as we all know, it's not good for sleep either. So it's just like, yeah, nothing is good. But at least this is cozy. Hi, it's Sunday. I'm going to my dad's. Not feeling that great, but it's nice weather and it would be nice to get out as well. So I'm just wearing this, one of those culottes, sort of like red zebra pattern, and a tank top from Weekday, I think it is, that I bought second hand. Like big shirt, second hand, don't know where it's from. I love this necklace. I think it's from ASOS, but I bought it like 6 or more years ago. Also fun to play with, but I really like this tank top because when it rides up you can see my sternum tattoo, and like it's not a tattoo that I show off that much, but since it is one of those like more sensitive places to get a tattoo, it is nice when I can show it off a little bit at least. And yeah, this is what I'm going to wear. I'm going to take like the slowest walk there, listening to the Memory Police. Yeah. Hi, so I was resting today and finished the Memory Police, and I realized it wasn't 12.5 hours. It was 11.5 because the last hour or so was just a list of other books published by the publisher. So I felt weird when I realized it was over because I didn't expect it to come already, although you could sense it in the way it was told that there wasn't much else to tell in the story. There wasn't many other places to go, and I don't know what I felt about the ending or the whole I don't know, last 2 hours. We have the nameless narrator. She has these two close people left, I'd say. The old man, Mr. R, or whatever they are called in English, and the old man is someone who knew her parents, and Mr. R was her publisher, who it's told in the sort of on the back side of the book, or the pre-information, that she needs to save him, sort of. And I like that whole plot. I loved how all of the discussions around memory and loss and her feeling empty but still not seeing it as a bad thing. You sort of feel like I'm always fascinated by books where we as a reader know more than the main person, because it just creates a very different and exciting dynamic to read about. And she, as most people in this society, just forget everything that disappears. And she's like, I'm okay with it. It's like no big thing. And despite some of the things that disappears are very big and are very important, and we see that sort of progression in the story, and she's still like shrugging. And it sort of reminded me of Flowers for Algernon, but I think I had the same like feeling for the main character there as in this book. Another thing that I really loved was this scene where there's another disappearance and she wakes up in her bed, and it's like this almost like body horror scene that comes like from nowhere. And it's very interesting how she writes, because I imagine it must be difficult to describe something that the main character doesn't know what it is, so you have to use very neutral words. You have to describe something without describing it, so it's too obvious. And yeah. And another thing I wanted to mention is we have two sort of parallel stories in this book. And I don't know if it was because I was tired all the time when I was listening to it, because I didn't understand how the other storyline fitted in until they told me, like literally, and I didn't like it, how it fitted into the bigger story. I mean, it made me feel less interested about it, especially if I'm rereading it. It would be sort of like, yeah, I can skip this. But yeah, maybe you have another thought about that. So yeah, I'm finished with that one. I started listening to We Lost in the Fire, or what it's called in English, and I'm sort of stuck in the first short story because it talks a lot about trans people and transvestites, which feels very a very old way of phrasing, and it makes me want to look into how, if she's just a woman writing about these very marginalized people, we can assume extra marginalized in a country like Argentina. The people in the story are very poor, and she was like, there was this sentence, yeah, and here the fat and the old transvestites, and I just like, yeah, that won't feel very good. So maybe I go to intimacies instead. I felt a bit like, no, I don't want to go to it because I'm watching Heartstopper. I have one episode left, and I felt so good starting to watch it last night. I've been so excited about it. But it has felt so heavy this season. And especially with the sort of ED thing, that is something that for me is extra difficult to see. Yeah, it feels just very heavy, and I have one episode and a bit left, so I don't think I will watch it today, maybe tomorrow, maybe not. I will finish it, because it's great. And I love Isaac, I love that he has got some more story time. And like, obviously, as a very introverted person who loves books and who is that sort of person who would leave a party and sit in a corridor and read a book, I empathize a lot with him. So yeah. So maybe I will go to Intimacies by Katie Kitamura. Yeah. Because I need something to listen to before I go to bed tonight. It's 9:30. It's raining a lot. I've been tired the whole day. I slept poorly. Woke up not really early, but didn't sleep that much. Watched the semi-finals in Sweden. We lost. And then slept for 4 hours during the day. So yeah, that has been my day. So yeah, good night for now.